everybody. My name is Kathy Maddox Gervase from the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Farmington, New Mexico. San Juan. I love seeing a lot of people I haven't seen before. It's been a long time ago. And it's fun to have when people speak, they've been speaking with loud, projecting voices and not soft and timid. And it brings a power to ourselves. So this program is called Playtime, if you haven't guessed the way that I've been going with this. It's by Stephen Day of the UU Church of Elgin. This morning's service was supposed to be an easy one, which isn't to say I was going to just phone it in, but my plans were to use one of the sermons recommended by our Touchstone's Worship Resource subscription. The theme this month is play. And with summer vacation almost over, it seems like a good time to remind everyone to get out and enjoy themselves. So I sat down with the resources, found some sermons containing messages and insights that struck a chord, and worked to combine them into a single coherent sermon. But as I did so, I found myself drawn to the topic more and more than I expected. After chasing down a couple of quotes that led down some really big rabbit holes, I found that the idea of play meant more to me than I expected. And to be honest, one of the things I like most about leading services is exploring topics that spark a new way of thinking or feeling, and perhaps generating a bit of personal growth. I mean, isn't that what we're all here hoping for when we come to our Sunday services? So, come along with me this morning as we explore the idea of play, what it is, why it's good for us, and how we can get more of it. To begin with, I'd like to share a story that comes from the Boston College psychology researcher, Dr. Peter Gray. A few years ago, I had an experience that helped me see the difference between play and play. I was invited by two 10-year-olds girls who I knew pretty well to play a game of Scrabble. I've played a fair amount of Scrabble in my life, and I'm not bad at it. The two girls, in contrast, were complete novices. So I saw this as an opportunity to teach. I would teach them the rules and some of the strategy of the Scrabble. Hold on. Okay, so I was going to be their Scrabble mentor. But as it turned out, they taught me something way more important than Scrabble. They loved the basic situation, taking turns at putting down the letters in an organized way on the board with sets of letters interlocking with other sets like in the crossword fashion, making interesting designs. Yes. But they had no interest at all in keeping score. And the idea of limiting themselves to real actual words that can be found in the dictionary, for them. They very quickly and effortlessly, with no overt discussion at all, and despite my initial protests, developed their own rules and strategies. Their unstated but obvious goal on each turn was to put down the longest, funniest nonsense word they could find. Using as many letters as possible from their rack, combined with at least one letter on the board, the words had to sound like it could be a word. But it could not be an actual word. The object was not to score points, but to make each other laugh. And laugh they did. They laughed like only two high-spirited 10-year-old girls who have long been best friends can laugh. Sometimes one would challenge the other's word, asking for the definition. And the other would offer a hysterical definition that somehow seemed to fit with the way the word sounded. And then they would laugh even harder. I realized as I sat back and watched them and began to laugh along with them, that my way of playing was something like what we usually call work. Their way of playing was play. I realized too that I used to play like that as a child. What happened to me in the interim? Let's pause here for a moment for a bit of reflection on that story. How do you feel listening to that game of imaginary Scrabble? I laughed my butt right off because it was just something I would have done at 10 years old. Do you remember playing games like that when you were younger? Do you long for the more of those childhood sillinesses and gigglelessness? My initial reaction was the same as the author's. That's not Scrabble. Scrabble has rules and an official dictionary with words. And that's when I realized that somewhere along the way, I've gotten old and a little bit curmudgeon. Curmudgeon, yeah, I'm a curmudgeon. Now, I remember being younger and goofing around like that. I have vivid memories of getting lost in my imagination as I played with my Transformers in my bedroom, but I can't really remember the last time as an adult that I played. All in, all in and lost in the fun of playing. These days, I'm more likely to be found on the periphery of others having a good time, and it honestly brings me joy to watch that, but I'm really in the midst of it laughing and sharing in the fun, which is why this morning's topic called to me. Sometimes, as I watch the children play, I feel a longing and a loss for the happy-go-lucky person I feel like I used to be. According to researcher Dr. Stuart Brown says, silliness is important to the human spirit, so is play. And if anyone knows anything about play, it's Dr. Stuart Brown. Dr. Brown found his calling in the aftermath of the 1966 Texas Tower combination mass murder-suicide committed by Charles Whitman, and an otherwise charming 25-year-old student with no past criminal history. For 4 months, Dr. Brown and a group of other psychiatrists pored through every aspect of Whitman's life to identify what could have led to the tragedy. Ultimately, the commission unanimously agreed that one of the primary contributing factors was that his childhood, his free play, had been suppressed by his sadistic, overbearing father. Dr. Brown was fascinated by this idea. A lack of childhood could lead to this negative adult behavior. So he began a study comparing the life histories of both male incarcerated for murder and felony drivers against a control group of everyday people. And he found that both the prisoners and drivers had histories of suppressed play in their youth, leading him to conclude that play deprivation is a contributing factor to a propensity for future violence or other life dysfunctions. His conclusion led him to a life research on play, and in the early 1990s, he founded the National Institute for Play, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to advancing society's understanding and application of play to help us all lead healthier and happier lives. Now, to understand why play is so important to leading a fulfilled life, first we have to take a short field trip into the world of biology, and specifically the brain. Humans and many other animals have a biological drive to play that has evolved over millions of years. For example, dogs love to chase balls, wrestle, and play tug of war at all ages of life. As infants, play can be as simple as just interacting with an environment and making sense of what we're feeling and experiencing. As toddlers, we play learning to move, experimenting with physical objects, and creating stories. As children, our play extends to include others, at first just playing near other children and eventually learning to play with others. Hide and seek, make-believe, rough and tumble fighting. All of these different types of activities, all these different ways of playing, allow children to enter a state where their brains are being wired the skills they'll need as they grow. Physical agility, social competence and norms, emotional regulation, creativity, resilience, respect for others, and more. And even as adults, the more time we spend in this playful state of mind, the more we keep those connections from falling into despair. Physically, playing literally keeps our minds young. Dr. Gray has spent his life studying just that, and he has identified 5 key elements that define it. The activity must be self-chosen and self-directed. It's not play if you're doing it because someone else told you to. It must be intricately motivated, as in the activity itself is more valued than the end product. Think of going for a hike versus going for a hike to burn more calories. The activity must be structured based on rules in the player's mind. You can think back to Dr. Gray's Scrabble story, although I personally think that if you've agreed to the rules ahead of time, it can still count as play. It must have an imaginative or creative aspect to it. The player must be wholly engaged in the activity without being stressed about it. Don't play a sport you're not good at, you're stressed. Where did it go? So next up is telling you about the different types of play. This is fun. The first one is the collector. For the collector, the thrill of play comes from having an interesting collection of things: coins, toy trains, antiques, wine. Collections can be pretty much anything, including experiences. A person who wants to visit all the national parks just for the fun of, that it derives for them. I have a sister-in-law that does that. They're about halfway through. The competitor. Competitors access the euphoria and creativity of play by participating in a competitive game with specific rules. Competitors are playing just for the fun game and for fun. They are playing to win. Competitors may enter the state of play through an individual activity like single-player video game or Hand of Solitaire, or by playing a team sport like baseball. They may actively participate in the game or just watch as a fan. Competitors frequently make themselves known in social groups, where the fun comes from being the top person in the group. Might not be so good. You gotta moderate yourself. The creator artist. For the creator artist, joy is found in making things, whether painting, woodworking, pottery, or even cooking, knitting, and gardening. Creator artists may show their work to others, or the creation may just be for themselves. The point is to get lost in the making of something, not necessarily the value or perfection to the end product. The director. Directors play by planning. They enjoy planning and executing projects and events. Though many are unconscious of their motives and style of operating, they love the power to make things happen and are born organizers. At their best, you can think of someone that throws a good party or puts together a good social activity. At their worst, they can be manipulative. All the world's a stage, and the rest of us are merely players in their game. The explorer. Our natural instincts for our world. And some people never lose that enthusiasm for doing that. Exploration becomes their preferred path to a play state. Their way of provoking the imagination. Exploring can be physical, literally, going from new place to new place, or emotional by searching for a new feeling or a deepening of familiar through movement, or mental, such as researching a new subject or seeking out new points of view. We come to the joker. Most basic player throughout history, a joker's play always revolves around some kind of foolishness. In school, a joker might have found social acceptance by clowning around to make classmates laugh, a strategy that may keep going into their adulthood. The movement. These people are those who like to move. Some even need to move in order to think. This category includes most athletes as well as dancers and people that just like to be moving. The movers naturally want to push their bodies and feel the results. They may play football, practice yoga, dance, jump rope to access the joy and openness of play. While they may play sports, competition is not the main focus. It is a way of engaging in the movement. Now, the last one is the storyteller. For the storyteller, imagination is key to the joys of play. Storytellers feel engaged in stories and in experiencing the thoughts and emotions of characters in that story. Storytellers may enjoy writing themselves or reading other stories or watching movies. Performers and teachers frequently fall into the realm of a storyteller, creating an imaginative world through acting, dancing, or conveying information to others. Okay, so while Dr. Brown believes that most people have a dominant personality, I believe we can be whatever we want to be. I see myself the creator through the puttering I enjoy doing around the house, a director through the thrill I get from tackling a problem, and a storyteller through Sunday services and playing Dungeons and Dragons. Whatever your dominant personality or personalities, important thing is to figure out where you find your joy and find more ways of incorporating it into your daily life. The following are ways to get started in your playful journey. First, figure out your play personality or personalities. What is it that you really enjoy doing? Once you figure that out, think of ways to incorporate more of that into your routine, but be careful. When you find an activity you enjoy doing, you have to do it for the pure enjoyment of it. You can't be focused on the goal of enjoying it. Unless you love the learning process of something, make sure you do not do it as an enjoyment. Because if you don't like learning, it's like, if you play the piano, but you're not really musically inclined, you can still play the piano. But then if you take lessons, it's really a hardship. This is not what you want to do. Another tip I found very insightful is finding new approaches to a favorite activity. Because sometimes we get older. The things we used to enjoy just aren't as easy for us. So if you enjoy biking, but it's getting more difficult than it once was, get an e-bike. You still get activity and you still get to be outside. If you enjoy yoga but can't get up off the floor, do chair yoga. It still works. You see where I'm going here? All right, so that is our playful journey through the San Juan Yu. Closing words. So I'll close this morning with words from Pondering Playtime, a sermon delivered by Reverend Mark Harris in 2013, one of the original sermons that started me down this morning's rabbit hole. He says, "Summer reminds us of the soul's need for free play. Warm breezes remind us that our sails need to be filled. Cool water tells us that refreshing swim will renew us. Badminton nets and croquet mallets are testaments that our bodies can't see straight or hit in a line. But they love being with others, laughing and enjoying the evening's balmy twilight. We become separated from life's joy when we neglect being playful with our bodies. Summer is a time to open all the windows of your being and enjoy life in the dance. There is an invitation to play that we should not turn down. It is not counting the miles or the pounds. It is counting clouds in the sky and seeing and discerning their shapes. May each of us have a life that balances work and play. May we pay attention to the little details and play enough to see the dancing leaves on the tree that move in the rhythm of our souls. And may we dance with the music of our lives, feeling the wind on our face and the water rushing between our toes. May it be so."